Welcome to 2024 and our first CTE Teach webinar of this calendar year and the second of the school year. Going to share with you today Tip Top Tip Teacher Induction Program tips. And this will be beneficial for new teachers, mentors, administrators, and talking a lot about induction. James, take me to the next slide if you would. There are four of us here on the call. We're all on today. Melissa, our program administrator for CTE Teach. James is teacher on assignment for CTE Teach. Megan Guillermo is our administrative assistant. Myself, I am David Amon, and yeah, we've taken some liberties with these pictures for sure. Next slide, James. Just to remind you, webinar norms, if you could keep yourself muted, we've got you muted, and you'll be muted throughout the webinar. Use the chat feature in case you want to ask any questions or comments. James will be moderating that, and Megan will keep an eye on it as well too. If you're on camera, and we appreciate you being on camera, just be mindful of your visual and audio surroundings. Next slide, James. So just to give you a little background here, CTE Teach has always been about teacher mentoring and providing mentor support for first and second year teachers transitioning from industry into the classroom. And for many years, we mentored the mentor teachers who were supporting new teachers and continue to have resources that we will continue to share with you throughout this webinar. And then a big bulk of our work this year is working on a teacher pipeline and the recruitment and retention of CTE teachers, so that we can continue to provide teachers throughout the state in classrooms. Colton Redlands UCAPA ROP, where all four of us work, has a teacher induction program that we're very proud of that's been around for 14 years, say. And we support all our new first and second year teachers with 2 years of mentor support. That is individual mentor support, group mentor support, and continuous training throughout those first couple of years, and more training that people can continue to utilize in years beyond that. Next slide, James. And you might see in the chat, James said, if you're just joining us, if you can put your name and organization in the chat, we'd appreciate that. So a little interaction here. If you can go to Slido, slido.com on your computer, on your device, enter the code 4003035. We're looking for, what does a new CTE teacher need to know? What are some of the things you think a new CTE teacher needs to know? James has put a link to that in the chat. And again, it's code 4003035. Yes, first thing I saw, making content relevant to high school students. Absolutely. Psychology of learning, developmental stages of students, trauma-informed care, classroom management, discipline tips. You better believe it. That's one of the challenges for sure. Lots of good stuff here. Instructional strategies, classroom management, student engagement, integrating academics into CTE content, navigating the system, absolutely. Navigating your school system, department systems. Lesson planning, yes, absolutely. Where they can get support, absolutely. Who can help with content, behavior, teacher norms, how it all works. Class management, specifics of their pathway, lesson planning for the semester and the year. Yes, just game planning for the week, the month, the year. Parent communication, student relationship building. I think someone's seen the next slide. Report cards and grading, feedback, and more. Parent and community relations, English language learners. Yes, absolutely. Assessments, grading. Yes. What is an advisory? How to recruit industry partners. Who to talk to for support. Connecting with high school students, yes, connecting with the student, and how to get high school students in access to curriculum, IEPs, 504s, SSTs, UDL or Universal Design for Learning, how to work with non-CTE teachers, support for IEP students. You guys are nailing this, nailing it, nailing it. Go ahead and keep putting stuff there. James, if you would take me back to the deck and the next slide. Good things.
Just really quick, David, I wanted to mention that Slido for our educators out there is a free site. You can sign up for free, and you could use this in the classroom to do polls, games, and so on. So I'm just using the free version of Slido. So that's a pretty good site to use.
So we had put together just kind of a list of challenges that new teachers face. Everything. What don't, everything's new. I remember when I entered the classroom 10 years ago, I thought, oh, everyone's going to be here. They're interested in this subject I'm teaching. No. And I just found I needed like support outside of the classroom and just taking care of personal stuff. I called my dad and had him come down and spend a couple of weeks with me, and he made dinner. And I'm not sure I would have eaten the first couple of weeks if I hadn't had that support, and just someone at home to talk to and talk about what was so different. I remember, planning a lesson that I thought was going to take 3 days and students were done in about 6 minutes. Uh, we had to review that and get a little more in depth on that. But everything is new. Things that you guys mentioned: classroom management, student engagement, learning new concepts, things that you didn't essentially know or know exactly how to do because you now had to teach them to students, having what you knew, but being able to explain it and teach it. So everything was new. And then I'd like that Melissa added here at the end, other duties as assigned, those extra things. Next slide, James. So teacher induction, when you're bringing on new teachers, starting with new teachers, topics should include preparing for the first. Think about those first days, that first week, that first quarter, that first year, that first IEP meeting, that first day you're going out as and need a substitute to cover. I think of the detailed list of notes I left about 10 years ago. But the first drill, the first parent conference or meeting, the first advisory, because that's a different experience. It's the first report cards. I remember having a grading system that I had to do one thing on progress reports, but 5 weeks later on grades, I had to do them a different way. And always it was able to help other people later on. So, and as you go through those first couple of years, there's all other kinds of things to learn. Mentorship, being a mentor, finding a mentor, having a mentor. The CSTPs, California Standards for the Teaching Profession, and how that fits into your schedule. Lesson planning was a challenge for sure. So if you can just think about all those things you didn't know, but you learned, those kinds of things need to be included. And you don't want to overwhelm people. So you want to manage it out and space it out. But what do they need right away? What do they need in a month? What do they need in a quarter? Those kinds of things. Good list there for sure. James, next slide, please. So our teacher induction program at CRIROP, and it's seen changes through the years, but it is a cohort of our first and second year teachers, new to CRIROP and or new to teaching. So there may be people who taught at another institution, but they joined the teacher induction program, and people brand new right out of industry joining us. And they are supported with 2 years of CTE teacher mentoring and support. We start each school year with a 2 to 3 day new teacher boot camp that Melissa's going to take you through in a few slides here. We have monthly collaborative workshops. In fact, in another building on our campus, there's one starting in a few moments. The teachers also receive credential support. The teachers have a mentor teacher and a program manager that they report to or who's there to support them. But that mentor teacher and our HR department help with their credential support, check-ins, um, help them navigate that system because that's different as well too. So a very collaborative effort, so that teachers feel that they are surrounded with support, making the transition a little bit easier. James, next slide, please. A big part and a big important part is we have introduced mentor teachers or extra mentor teachers. So for our 3 districts, there are 3 to 4 mentor teachers in addition to a program manager to support them. And those people are there to do what mentors do, to guide, to listen, to coach. They're non-evaluative. The program manager may do their reviews and things, but the mentor teacher is there to guide and help them on their journey. They can model teaching practices. They can support in the classroom and outside of the classroom. They're another person to train those teachers. They provide feedback, non-evaluative feedback. They will observe in the classroom. They will do video observations and offer support to that teacher. On CTE Teach, in the top right-hand corner of this slide, and you see the CTE Teach apple, you will see this multiple times in this presentation, is our website, cteteach.com. And one of the courses we provide is a mentor course, and it's for mentors. It's how to mentor, training for mentors, how to be a mentor. And that includes the 15 modules shown. But any mentors out there or teachers that are looking to mentor, you can sign up for this free of charge. There's no charge on the CTE Teach classes, and you can go through that self-directed, getting training on how to become a mentor and how to support teachers. We'll talk about some of the other modules as we go on. James, next slide. Some of the books we've used for mentoring are listed here. There are others, but these are some that we've utilized in the past, and we'll have some of these available later on as well too. So kind of stay tuned for a little bit of a survey, link to the slides, and some opportunities on these. Next slide, James. I was just saying, another one of our courses is an early orientation course in CTE Teach. And this is support for teachers in their first 30 days. And as you see at the bottom here, early orientation satisfies the Commission on Teacher Credentialing's requirement for new teacher orientation within the first 30 days of teaching. So that's all sorts of orientation topics to just get the teacher ready for the classroom. Already this year, over 500 new teachers have utilized this early orientation course. It is by far the most popular. And again, all people have to do is sign up for the course. And again, no charge on this. Melissa, I am going to turn it over to you to talk about CRIROP and TIP, our teacher induction program.
All right. Thanks, David. Good afternoon, everyone. So nice to see you all here today on this chilly day out here, at least in San Bernardino County. So hope you're warm, got a cup of coffee or tea to keep you warm as we get through this webinar together today. Just a little reminder too, as we will probably look at again with some of the other modules that we offer, but one of the great things about the content that we've created for the state through CTE Teach is that it is free PD. So whether you have a first-time teacher or a struggling teacher, veteran or not, that needs some extra support, you have a new admin that needs some support and some information about really what's different about CTE in the, the ecosphere here in education. You can access they can access any of our content for free all the time through cteteach.com. And one of the great things for accountability for administrators is that those folks will get a certificate when they complete the modules. So if you need proof that a teacher is doing something like completing their early orientation in those first 30 days, or that you needed a teacher to brush up on assessment or classroom management, or you have a teacher on assignment with an idea to do some teacher externships this summer, and you wanted them to get some training, they will get a certificate issued at the successful completion of any of these modules that we're sharing with you today. And they have to complete the module, including a little assessment at the end to ensure that they've kind of absorbed that information. So just as a reminder with our content is that it is teacher focused, classroom focused, mentor focused, but it also helps support accountability with PD. So back to TIP. So here at CRIROP in about 2000s, 6, 7, I think it was, we decided that just the typical handshake and good luck to you right out of industry teacher wasn't quite cutting it. We knew there was something called BITSA for the traditional track teachers that also had gone to teacher school, right? And had student teaching and things, but there wasn't a lot, I know in my experience. Had great staff here at CRIROP, and eventually got sent to some PD somewhere in the middle of my first year of teaching. But otherwise, it was a filing cabinet, an overhead projector, and a handshake, right? And you know the stuff, you'll learn how to teach it in your credential program. So we knew that we could do better. So in about 2006-07, we created our own teacher induction program here at CRIROP. Just a few years later, the state said, hey, can you model this for the state? And that's how CTE Teach was born in about the 09-10 school year. So in our induction, we kind of kick it off every year with a boot camp. Depending on funding and schedules and how many new first year teachers we have each year, we'll do a 2 to 3 day TIP boot camp. So what you see on this slide is some of the goodies that we bring to the trainings, some of the resources we provide as far as kind of new teacher textbooks, food, lots of food, because you got to keep those teachers, feeling full and satisfied while they're learning all these things that they need to learn to be successful. So the list here is just a kind of a brief, very overview summary of what we would do in a 2 to 3 day boot camp with our teachers. And again, they're not going to learn, 100% all the ins and outs, but we give them enough to hopefully feel comfortable in that first couple of days, that first week, that first month in the classroom, before we bring them back in for our next workshop of the year. So we start off with welcoming them to CRIROP in our case, and we introduce them to the admin team, the classified team that'll be their direct supports. So really the people that can help them, so they know who they can go to with the myriad of questions they will have in their first year or two, but first couple of weeks especially. We will do a site tour. So again, they kind of see what we do here at our main site and where to find those people in person. We also do a little bit of a history of our organization and CTE, because it looks a little different today than it did maybe when they were in school, or their kind of vocational ed experiences and things, and kind of how we are part of the education system, but what makes us different and special. We go through all of that. And then we talk about then the teacher basics, everything from how to show up dressed professionally and not like a student the first day of school, to boundaries and professional conduct and ethical behavior as a teacher. That might include phones and not sharing social media and giving your cell phone out to students, and the processes that we have instead of that. We do take them on a tour of our organizational website, so they know where to find things like work orders and copies of their course outlines, and if they need something from HR, they can go there kind of as their first point before picking up a phone during their busy school day. We also then, of course, dip into what does a first day, a first week look like in the classroom, everything from, starting to plan a syllabus and understanding their course outline and how they're going to sequence their year, to, how are they going to get to know the students, build community, and things like that with their students. Creating a syllabus, we provide a template for them, and they get some time during the boot camp to work on that with their peers and their assigned mentors. And then we start digging into some of that nitty gritty with what does a lesson plan look like? How do you pace a lesson throughout a 50-minute class period to ensure that you've got that bell-to-bell engagement and students are learning and sharing, and kind of that Madeline Hunter model, but then amped up to meet the needs of today's learners. And speaking of today's learners, right, we have lots of special needs in our classrooms, and not always just the traditional ones that we're used to in this post-pandemic world. So we talk a lot about how to differentiate instruction and how to engage, and make sure that what we're teaching is more interesting than what's happening on TikTok during that class period and stuff like that. All of our districts that we support through our CTE programs are Google Classroom districts. So we give a Google Classroom training and ensure that all the teachers have access to their Google Classroom, and help them kind of build the bones of that and how it's used and why it's helpful and how they can incorporate that with their grade books and things like that. We talk a little bit about their school culture. And this is why when, as David was talking about our mentors, as much as possible, we try to have the mentors matched to the new teachers that are at their site and or at least their district, so that they can understand the culture either at their campus or at least within their school district. It'll be a little different for those of you that are on a school district or a comprehensive high school, where you may have the site culture and the district culture, where for us, we have maybe an ROP culture, the district, the school, community, and things. So we talk a little bit about that. And then lots of student engagement strategies to help kick off their years, usually what those first 2 to 3 days look like. Oftentimes, again, depending on what each year looks different. How many first-year teachers do you have? How many second-year teachers are returning for our induction program? We may do the first day where it's all just first-year teachers, and then day 2, we bring on the new teachers. Years where we haven't had a lot of first-year teachers, we may just do a 2-day, but again, we dedicate that first day to the things that a first-year teacher needs to know, bring in the second-year teachers as the seasoned veterans, right, on day 2 or 3, depending on the needs. The 2 books here are books that we have incorporated in that. We don't necessarily live in these books with our teachers, but throughout the first time we meet with them at the boot camp and then sprinkled throughout workshops during the year, we do kind of mention and hearken to parts of the book. The one we've used most recently the last few years is the first-year teacher's survival guide, just for reference. We also do provide all of our brand new teachers with a little teacher toolbox. So we'll get a shoebox and fill it with all the basic supplies that we think they might need for their first year, including a notebook to write down notes during trainings or to do some journaling and reflection. We'll usually try to throw in some snacks, sanitizer, tissues for the tears or the first sniffles they get from germy kids, and then some fun things in there too, depending on, again, each year looks different. Go ahead, James. So on the next 2 slides are just some of the topics that we will incorporate in our TIP workshop. So once we've gotten through the 2 to 3 day boot camp at the beginning of the year, and that'll happen before school starts, then we will do usually about 8 workshops throughout the year. We plan those so they happen once a month, and then we usually avoid, December's and spring break months. Otherwise, we will hold a workshop monthly and different topics. So again, depending on how big our groups are, how many first versus second year teachers, we've changed it up sometimes. And a lot of times when there's some extra categories, maybe like a quad D or some instructional technology that are maybe more of the nice to haves instead of the need to haves, we will look at doing those every other year, so that whether someone's in induction on their first or second year, they will have gotten a taste of some of those extra special things and not just the bones. Because while it's fun to do the extra stuff, we do try to focus on the things that are most important for somebody coming right out of the classroom. I'm sorry, right out of industry into the classroom. One thing too that I don't think we've noted yet is, at least in our case at CRIROP, we have anyone that's either brand new to teaching or new to us go through our teacher induction program. So it provides a great benefit to help teachers kind of learn your ways and maybe unlearn some bad habits possibly that they have, but also allows you to have some veteran teachers that may have some instruction under their belt help those new teachers, all in the name of good CTE instruction. So that's something too I just wanted to point out, that new to teaching or new to us. So again, teaching strategies, we look at the standards within their curriculum, both the anchor and pathway standards. We talk about, again, some of those employability skills, the soft skills too, that get incorporated in all of our instruction. We talk about assessment and grading and the documents that they need to be able to use with us and through our maybe articulation agreements with community colleges or advisory documents or anything that is pertains to us specifically or the organizations which we work with. We also have had a focus on the CSTPs, as David mentioned, the high quality CTE, those 12 elements. We touch on those in some interesting ways that we'll look at some examples coming up. Go ahead and change slides for me there, James.
Melissa, we have a question in the chat. How does your attendance tend to be? I've implemented this model this year, but sometimes attendance is low.
Yes, so it is an expectation of all of our new teachers that they attend TIP for those 2 years. So when we hire them, they get the schedule for that first year from the moment we hire them. So the expectation is that they come every single time. We do pay them to attend. I know that doesn't always happen depending on funding and things, but we've decided to put that in our budget every year, that we do pay them at a non-teaching rate to attend the workshops. We structure the workshops so that it gives them enough time to, wait for traffic to die down on their campus to get here. We have also occasionally done where we'll meet on different sites. So sometimes that'll help people that are having transportation difficulties. It's always fun when you can take teachers to see model classrooms, especially if it's a site that they're not familiar with. So we'll do that. That sometimes helps with people that have traveling difficulties. Obviously, during COVID, we did everything remote and virtual. We've prefer not to do that since their credential programs are all remote and virtual and asynchronous for the most part now. We do like to do our TIP in person. We do, just to say that, we do have teachers that still have issues sometimes, but it is not a chronic issue because it is an expectation we set from the beginning. It is something that will show up in an evaluation as well when they are evaluated at the end of their first year. And then again, when they clear their credentials. So haven't had too many problems. Again, set expectations, pay them if you can. And make sure they know it's kind of part of that evaluation and things. So again, we have teachers, traffic happens, kids daycare, sometimes our teachers are in, school for other things or have, they moonlight and things. But for the most part, we do have a good success rate with getting them all here. So of course, I say that now, who knows how many are next door right now, right? But no, we usually have pretty good attendance. Just set expectations and pay them. Some other workshops we do, we talk about building partnerships, and that can look everything from the classroom level to taking your students as partners in their learning to growing partnerships on your high school campus and doing those cross-curricular projects, building partnerships with your counseling team to ensure they understand your programs and help students register for your classes. It could be building partnerships in your community through industry and community organizations for support, building partnerships for work-based learning, internships, apprenticeships, and things, building partnerships with community colleges to ensure articulation and dual enrollment opportunities. So those partnerships can really go big, start small and go big. We do touch on things like work-based learning, how to prepare for a substitute, how to reboot practices when things aren't going well. That's one of their topics in our tip today is, what wasn't working for you last semester that maybe you can start the year fresh with. Maybe it's a cell phone policy or a homework policy. Maybe you want to be tougher. Maybe you need to loosen up a bit. We found that a New Year reboot is always a popular topic with our teachers. So we usually do that every January. Differentiation, obviously, for many, many reasons. We have different learning styles, different learner needs, making sure that some people just get certain concepts better than others, right? Whether it's hands-on versus more theory-based. So how can we ensure that all learners are given equal opportunities for their learning? We do often set goals for our teachers, not only what do they want to accomplish as a teacher, but also as just a working professional and kind of trying to encourage lifelong learning in our teachers so they can encourage it with their students. And then some of those other things like we talked about, support with, what's an advisory? Why do I need to do it? How do I do it as part of this organization? We have a lot of successful articulation agreements, so ensuring that those happen by the end of the school year, and then lots and lots and lots of peer sharing. So go ahead and click on that calendar there for me, James. So what you're going to see here is an example. This was from 21-22, so that kind of first year-ish that we were kind of back in person, but we were still trying to do some smaller group activities sometimes to help accommodate schedules and some of that social distancing that some people still wanted. So again, in 21-22, this is what our TIP workshops looked like for that year. So you'll see once you get access to this, you'll see that in some cases that year, they brought the whole group together, both the first and second year. Some of the workshops, we separated the first year versus the second year, because again, different needs, whether you're brand new or got a little bit of experience under your belt. And then we also had some virtual because there were still some, outbreaks and things of COVID. And then we also did some where the mentors would meet specifically with their groups. So when we have our mentors, typically we'll have each mentor with at least 4 to 5 teachers, depending on how many new teachers and how many mentors we have each year. Over the past 5-6 years, we've had between 3 to 4 of our mentors, and they've had between 3 to 5 teachers under their mentorship. So as much as possible, as a reminder, we try to get them within district. Subject, if we can. We have a lot of healthcare teachers. So if we have a healthcare mentor, we try to get the healthcare teachers under them. One of our mentors is currently a middle school teacher, so he mentors new middle school teachers we have along with some others. So we try to get that match where we can. So when you look at this one, you can see some of the topics that they addressed and what the kind of the timeline of the day might have looked like. So in this year, they focus on some of the high quality elements of CTE. So you'll see that it wasn't just the mentors doing the teaching, but that we had the mentees or the new teachers themselves. They were each assigned one of those high quality or two of those high quality elements, and they had to learn it to teach it, because we all know that's a great way to learn yourself, right? So along with kind of that peer collaboration and peer teaching, they had other topics during the first half. So typically most of our TIP workshops are about 2 hours long. We structure them so they can get here after school and have that time, provide the snacks so they don't have to necessarily stop at Starbucks on their way to the meeting. And again, this is just what 1 year looked like. And it's going to look different for your organization, your teacher needs, whether you have a lot of first and or second year teachers, how many mentors you can afford that year, and so on. Oops, there it goes again. So you, again, as I think the guys have mentioned in the chat too, we will be providing access to this slide deck where there's, again, lots of places where we're clicking around and linking to things. At the end of the webinar, we'll provide you with some instructions. So this next slide shows you, similarly to what we looked at, is what an actual agenda might look like for some of our workshops themselves. So again, within a 2-hour time frame, what are we able to accomplish? So you have 2 different ones here. You'll see on the one kind of with that kind of purpley pinkish color border, there's a lot of parking lot talk. So our peer mentor leader that year did a lot of kind of stopping and looking at questions the teachers had either so far during that TIP workshop or at the previous TIP workshop. So we incorporate the parking lot in all of our workshops. We just put a chart paper or put a stack of Post-its next to the door, and they can ask questions that they might have, either whether they're individual questions or questions for the whole group. And if we can get to those at the end of a workshop, we do. Otherwise, we put those on the list for next year or for next session. Or if they're more individual or pressing, the mentors can get right back to the teachers, or they can refer them to program managers, coordinator, principals, whoever your teacher leadership may be. That's been really helpful to kind of answer some of those questions that people are maybe too afraid to raise their hand and ask. But when you can stick it on a Post-it note a little more anonymously, that has been really useful. During the pandemic, we also did a post workshop webinar where the mentors would go through the parking lot questions, because imagine once we moved to distance learning and you have new teachers, there's a lot more questions, both techie and non-techie related. So we, for that COVID year in 2021, we actually did some kind of post-workshop webinars just going through parking lot questions. So again, depending on how many questions your parking lot may have, that particular workshop might be how you address them. So you'll notice on the one on the left-hand side, there are also some wellness pieces. So one of our mentors happens to be one of our mental health teachers. So she helped incorporate some wellness practices in our TIP. So every TIP meeting or workshop that they have, they do a little bit of meditation. So you'll see on here from 4:35 to 4:45, they did a little bit of reflection and self-meditation. So I guarantee that's happening at our workshop today as well. Again, lots of reflection, collaboration, getting them up and moving. Station rotations often happen, peer teaching, bringing our mentors in. Again, our mentors are all current classroom teachers, so they're bringing in their own practice, their own struggles, their own successes into these workshops as well. James, next. So this is another example of what a workshop flow might look like, but it's also providing you with access to a tool. So you notice how kind of nice and laid out this one is with the titles and the links and the descriptions and things. That really helps, especially if you often can veer off of timing and things, or folks that are delivering presentations for you. You want to make sure to hold them accountable to your time and all the things you're trying to cram in 2 hours at a time with new teachers. This is a tool called Session Lab, and it's something that our mentors have used for the past few years to do everything from their full day multi-day boot camps to the 2-hour workshops after school. This session lab is free. They also have a paid version, but you can use the free version to help organize your professional development and workshops and things. And there's other columns and notes and things you can add to this too, and share it with any fellow presenters, or even share it with your participants as kind of an agenda as well. So it's a really great tool. So we wanted to share that with you guys, as well as showing you another example of what a TIP workshop has looked like for us in the past. Next. So in as you saw in one of our workshop flows for the year, we always focus on one of two things. And again, it might be something that we switch back and forth with between year 1 and year 2, so that as teachers cycle through, they'll have a year of learning the 12 elements of high quality college and career. And then they'll learn about the standards for the teaching profession, which help reinforce what they're learning in their credential program. So this was a neat one I just wanted to share that shows how they basically had the new teachers pull from a hat who their partner was and what elements they were going to have to talk about. And they did that in one of their first workshops of the year, so that then they would know that, oh, we've got the March presentation or the February presentation. And they had some time to coordinate together to work on learning the content, deciding how they were going to teach it to their peers. And then they had about 30 minutes in a workshop to do so. And you can see how they're differentiating their instruction for their fellow teachers to provide some modeling and some great ideas for classroom engagement as well. So another neat little resource for you there. This is another one that helps teachers when it comes to how to kind of pace your daily lesson plans, and from week to, so starting big, go small, focusing competencies and standards and things. So this again is just another tool, kind of a little more of an infographic charting wise, where the teachers were asked to bring in their course syllabus, their course outline, some things they've done, and then the mentors help them break that down into pieces so they can understand their pacing, ensuring that teaching bell to bell, but also getting through everything they need to get through in the span of, a quarter, a semester, the school year, their pathway program. Next. This is another great tool that we used one year for teachers, thinking about how you need to maybe scaffold things and how you need to plan instruction so they get the foundation before they move on. So this one is in a sports medicine pathway. So what students need to know this before they can do that. And it always starts with, right, that basic behavior and classroom management. So can they be successful if there aren't rules and norms and expectations set? No, right? So again, this is just a model from one particular subject, but what it can look like for other teachers. Next. So here under my favorite Sesame Street character, Grover, is a goal setting activity that you can do once a year, twice a year. You can do it anytime you're, maybe doing walkthroughs, like how are you as far as meeting your goals? How are you doing? And it was just 3 simple questions that we asked of teachers at the beginning of the year. What do you hope to accomplish by the end of the school year? What's a professional goal? And what do you want to learn? So it's nice to come back through each workshop or each kind of visit that you might do with them to see how they're doing to reach these goals. And then at the end of the year, let them do some self-reflection and share out their successes, or maybe why they went a different way, or maybe they still have a work in progress with some of their goals. The other one is another tool that you can use. And again, we incorporated this, that I think it was that 21 school year. Go ahead and click on that, our temperature checker there, James. So this was just a Google form that was served kind of multiple purposes. So you're going to see these are the teachers from that year. So they just checked their name. And first off, we asked them, how are you feeling about teaching this month? How is it going? And so they selected that. So you would know maybe there was someone you needed to check up on. And go ahead and scroll, James. Is there anything they need to share with you that they can't share with the group? Do they need a observation completed for their credential program? So for us, their mentors are also their mentor of record for the credential program. So do I need to schedule something to get this done because you're in a class that's requiring that? And then this becomes also a touch base for human resources. So we use our mentor program as kind of that intermediary between the teacher and fulfilling their credentialing needs, so we can keep them coming back, and their credential or preliminary doesn't expire. Another resource here, tool, reflection. There was a, I think it was called the Mentor Cycle, was one of the books we did with our mentors one year. And it was really created like this self-reflective process for our mentors, and they turned that into the teachers. So we had a year where the teachers were specifically given a journal, told this was only to record their thoughts, their feelings, their frustrations. My husband has a great saying. He used to teach high school umpires, and when he taught them, he would give them all a little notebook too that they could keep in their little umpire gear and their ball bag. And he would tell them whenever they had a problem or they had a thought, if it made them frown, write it down. And I thought that's a great kind of tip for new teachers too, that we forget sometimes, even the successes. It doesn't always have to be the frowns. But writing something down where we had a moment where we might forget again, a success that's going to help us through a bad day, or a problem we had that just compounds because we didn't address it because we had too many other thoughts in our head. So being reflective as an educator, being reflective in your instruction, getting feedback from others can really go a long way to grow, improve your practice, and keep you in the classroom where we need you. It's also a good tool to model for students, because I think we can all be more reflective in ourselves as learners and just human beings. So we're not going to click on it now because of time, but there, once you have access to the slide deck, there is a sample of kind of a reflection journal pages that you can use with your new teachers or anybody. So as we've talked about through the webinar here, we also have additional professional development courses. So on cteteach.com, that Apple's your guide there. All of these are free. So besides the early orientation and the mentor modules, we also have an administrator module for brand new administrators to CTE, and we have these additional PD courses. If you have a teacher that is struggling with something that's also in the early orientation modules, they can take all 6 together to satisfy early orientation, or they can take those modules one at a time as well. So we have 17 different modules that folks can take depending on where their learner needs may lie. So here's just more for you to look at. I know a couple years ago, we dove into the middle school world. So giving teachers that previously taught high school or never taught before a little middle school 101, pretty darn valuable, right? So those are there for you too. Again, they issue a certificate of completion at the end for proof of PD. Okay, James. All right, resources, and more resources. Besides the one I've shown you today, this link will take you to our website, cteteach.com. And we'll go to that in just a sec, James. On the bottom here, you'll also see some other links to resources that we've utilized here at CryoUp. I'm going to start from the opposite end on my right. So we use Canva a lot. A lot of our teachers are finding a lot of value and fun in using Canva to kind of reinvent some of their presentations and their marketing tools for their classroom and student assignments. So that's when we make sure all of our teachers have a educational account for that. That's a lot of fun to use to really also spice up your organizational materials if you're looking to recruit, promote, and send out information to different partner groups. We also have Pathful accounts for all of our educators. Pathful used to be referred to as Nepris. It is a virtual guest speaker platform that can do so much more than that. Last year, Pathful also combined with Virtual Job Shadow. So you have an opportunity with Pathful to have not only connections to industry folks from all over the country and in some cases the world, but you can also connect your students to videos and to do essentially virtual job shadows and learn about all different career paths. Pathful also has some really good little mini assessments, aptitude type assessments. It's connected to ONET, so your students can kind of connect the learning to careers about actual labor market demand and skills and wages and all of that. So it's a really great tool that we do provide all of our teachers and our career readiness specialists who are our career counselors on each campus. They also offer professional development videos, both recorded and live. So it's a great way to get some PD in for folks as well. You can also, through Pathful, one thing we're doing in March is virtual career days. So you can schedule multiple speakers at the same time. for 1 hour time, 2 hours of time, a full school day to do a virtual career day versus an in-person one. So lots of great stuff with Pathful. We're big fans here of that here at CRIROP. We've also employed over the years Skillshare. There was lynda.com. It became linklearning.com. We used that one for a while. We felt there's a little bit more value in Skillshare, primarily because at some point when lynda.com became LinkedIn Learning, they stopped allowing us to have student accounts because they weren't satisfying all of the data privacy requirements. So all of our employees, including classified people here in our main office, as well as our teachers and students, can have a Skillshare account, which is just professional learning videos from topics all over the place, tech ones, wellness, marketing, there's health, there's all kinds of different videos you can learn Skillshare, and there's a lot of resources with each video that come. We've done PD with it. We allow our teachers to learn a new skill with it. We've given time for office staff to learn a new skill or enhance a skill, improve a skill that they need to enhance or improve with Skillshare as well. We've also employed the Alludo platform, which is a professional development tool for teachers. It's got everything from classroom basics to how to use different tech tools and things. As a JPA ROP that serves multiple districts, we have 3 to 4 different smart boards going around our classrooms. So one of the neat things Alludo has is they probably have like 15 different smart board tutorials to help people learn how to use the tools that they were probably given during COVID. And that's just one of the things. There's just tons of tech learning for teachers. Alludo gamifies their professional development, so that becomes fun if you've got competitive folks, and that becomes a carrot to get them to want to complete some asynchronous PD. So that's something cool you might want to check out, especially if you're limited in getting teachers to come to in-person things or show up to prescribed times for webinars. Alludo can be an asynchronous option for you. They have tons of resources that are already created that they have or partners have created for them, but you can also create your own professional development and build it within their platform. So really cool to check out. I know they'll give a free demo if you haven't seen it before. One of the things we did, it was kind of a response to the pandemic with information teachers needed to get without being able to, come get it from us. And just, we were all just so distanced from each other, more than just the fact that we stared at Zoom screens and things all day. So we created a teacher binder. So there is a link to our teacher binder, specifically to our tip page for new teachers, but that teacher binder during the pandemic included resources for PD that was available all over the place at that time. It provided quicker links to human resource forms if they needed to put in for a sub request, or they needed to put together a quick lesson plan because a teacher on assignment had to teach their class that day. It has lesson plan templates and lesson plans from other teachers that they created. There's just tons and tons of resources that we built out during the pandemic that we're slowly starting to revamp and rebuild now, as we know that our teachers are still actually using it, which we're really happy about. Apple, that takes you to cteteach.com, which gives you that direct access to our professional learning modules. And then also there's more information about other resources we have there, such as our industry sector resources. So this was a project last year where we had industry sector mentors throughout the state help build out some additional resources for teachers based on the industry sector they taught. So lots of great resources on our website as well.
Thank you, Melissa. Since we're kind of running out of time, I'm going to speed through this real quick. February is CTE month. Hopefully everyone is aware of that. Every February, National CTE Month is celebrated. One way you could do that is through informing parents, other teachers that are non-CTE teachers, your local businesses, your large businesses like Amazon, Disney, so forth, especially if you have like an animation class. So basically, we want to go ahead and advertise how great CTE is. I have some links in here, and the slides will be sent out to everyone at the end, especially when you do the survey. And then the video of this will also be presented to you at the end as well. But the CTE Month Toolkit is through ACTE, and that gives you everything that you need to use to create your social media platform, background virtual backgrounds for Zoom, things you could use for newsletters, flyers, you could share with your counselors, other students, parents, and so on, your legislators as well. So with that, there's also other options here where you could do a CTE messaging. You could use an email, newsletters, social media, and so forth. Again, there's a website where the CTE messaging gives you a PDF on how you could just go ahead and copy and paste your own CTE messaging, and then you could use it, add your logos, and so on. This is something that CRIRUP has on their website for guiding principles. Steal it, take it, copy it, put it into your social media posts, put it every couple of days, every day, every week. Show pictures of your students in action like you see in the presentation. We have students from the Colton, Redlands, and Yucaipa school districts in our CTE programs doing things like welding, animation, medical, and so on. So copy and paste these, use them to your liking. Utilize hashtags and share them with all the people that are in as followers. If people are not following you, go ahead and tag local businesses, tag Amazon, tag Disney, tag Apple, and so on. So hashtag CTE month, career tech ed, proud to be CTE. If you're an ROP, go ahead and say proud to be ROP if you want to work that. CTE works, career technical education. You could also use hashtag CTE, but that also is shared with the football injury, brain injury. So if you want to go with hashtag career tech ed, that might work better for you. And David, back to you. By the way, if you have any questions or would like some of these resources or reminders or some help with that, please reach out to me or David, and we'll definitely help you out with that, give you some ideas. Thanks.
Thank you, James. Talk quickly about where to catch us, where we'll be next. We will be at Educating for Careers March 3rd through 5th in Sacramento. We're presenting on the 4th. Last year, and many of you probably also participated, we did a survey on teacher recruitment and retention in the state of California, and we got over 750 respondents to that. Totally blew us away. We're excited about that. We're compiling that data, and we'll be sharing those results at Educating for Careers and throughout the spring. We also have a quarterly newsletter still coming this month, and we'll be doing another webinar in April. James, next slide. So, survey. I need your help on a little survey today about today's webinar. Take that survey. We'll have your information. Then we can send you the presentation slides. I'll send those out in the morning. And then also I've got books. I've got it. Oh, that's not showing up on the screen. Well, I've got books. I've got at least 10 books that we will be raffling off to people who complete the survey. So please fill that out. I see that James has put a link in the chat. And last time we asked what you wanted to hear about in presentations, one of the top things was TIP and teacher induction. So that's what we're back doing today. And we'll look at those for next April, even though we have some ideas for April as well, too. James, next slide. We are going to take it out of here. I gotta go. I'm gonna go have an apple or a donut. I'm not getting on the treadmill. No, I don't have that resolution. That's all we've got for today. We thank you for being here. If there's anything we can do for you, please feel free to reach out, phone, email, whatever it is, we're here to help, and hope you will check out cteteach.com and continue having a good week. Thank you all.